What is up? Welcome back to Hear Me Out Sports, where we are covering week 9. Let's run it. All right, so before we get into week 9, you know what we got to do. We got to start here in week 8. We're going to do a quick review. Tight ends, 73.53%. Not too bad, right? A little bit lower than last week, but last week we kind of killed it. Some of the hits, though. Greg Dulcich, I put him in the hit because I thought he was going to do good. He did good. Unfortunately, he's on a bye this week, so that's kind of puts a kink in the road as far as trying to gain off that production he's been putting up. Evan Ingram, he's also been doing well. Jacksonville seems to be finding their stride over there concerning him specifically. Going to the other side of the lane, though, with misses, we got Kyle Pitts, Tyler Conklin, and Tyler Higbee. Kyle Pitts, he he's mostly a miss, but sometimes a big hit. So that's just where it's at so far. Tyler Conklin, after putting up not great numbers over the last 3-4 weeks with Wilson, he had a phenomenal game, and then Tyler Higbee just letting us down a little bit. Close call. So we got Cole Kmet, T.J. Hawkinson, and Pat Fryermuth, who are all the closest ones. Some hurt us, some helped us. So with that, we're going into the Week 9 buys. We got the Cleveland Browns, the Dallas Cowboys, the Broncos, the Giants, the Steelers, and the 49ers. Some of the big, more notable names for this list. We got David Njoku, that's a little bit of a hit. Schultz, he can be a hit. Greg Dulcich, as I was saying, just barely. Yeah, that kind of hurts us if we just picked him up. Pat Fryermuth, he has had a pretty decent season, and then George Kittle, who seems to be consistent. So that's a little bit of a hurt, but we should still be able to find some people who can produce. I'm going to try to give you guys a list of names at the end of this video, so make it to the end, of people you might be able to pick up off the waiver wire and be able to put place in your leagues to help recoup some of those losses. But with that, we're heading to Thursday Night Football, where we are in for probably another not great game. We got the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Houston Texans. Dallas Goedert, he's good, right? No concerns really here. He usually gets a decent amount of volume. He's incorporated in the offense well. And his off games are still all right for the tight end position. He is a fringe though because Houston only allows 8.2 points to opposing tight ends, but he is not your typical tight end. So I think he's still going to be able to produce and put up some good numbers. On the Texans side, not super impressed with O.J. Howard. They have a 25th ranked offense. And there's a little bit of competition, I guess, at the tight end spot with Brevin Jordan and Jordan Howard as well. So eating out of those target shares. And none of them are getting that many targets. Heading over to Sunday, where we got the Chargers versus the Falcons opening us up. I like this game. I like Gerald Everett. Kyle Pitts has the potential, obviously. So LA Chargers, going from Gerald Everett's side, it's a good matchup. Atlanta's defense is number 25 overall, giving 12.5 points to opposing tight ends. And Gerald Everett seems to be getting consistent points, and he's just a solid option in this offense. He's usually the number 2 receiver. And on Atlanta's side, we got Kyle Pitts. I do think it is still an all right matchup going against the Chargers, especially if it turns into a little bit of a passing game. But in week 8, he has some pretty decent volume. He had 9 targets, 80 yards, 1 TD. He's still fringe in my book just because he's not a safe option. And because of that, it's hard for me just to want to start him every single week when he could put up just absolutely trash numbers. Heading over now to Miami Dolphins versus Chicago Bears. Mike Gesicki, Cole Kmet, I have them both on the bench. I do think that they both are fringe. I think they have the potential to break this 10 points. Miami, Mike Gesicki broke the threshold in week 8, but it was mainly because it was a high-scoring game against the Detroit Lions. There was lots of opportunity. Chicago's defense won't be the same. They're a little bit tougher, so I don't anticipate him getting the same amount of looks and same amount of opportunity as he did the last time, especially because he's not the top target there. It's Tyreek Hill number 1, Jalen Waddle number 2, and that's just literally all you need on this offense, but he is a good addition to it. Chicago, they had a good week 8 with Cole Kmet, but only because of a TD. He had 2 catches for 11 total yards, and listen, I think he could be a good bailout option. But the problem is Justin Fields at quarterback, he doesn't really use Cole Kmet as a bailout option. He uses his feet as a bailout option. He's very good on the ground. He's racked up lots of yards this season. So, given that, I don't think he uses Cole Kmet as much as another quarterback probably would. Heading over to Cincinnati, where we got the Panthers versus the Bengals. No difference here. Carolina, I'm still going to bench their people. I don't even think PJ Walker is. I don't think he should be the long-term quarterback. And there are questions there, but regardless, their offense is trash. Their QB isn't that great. Whoever's under center. So I got them both benched. With Cincinnati, Hayden Hurst. It is an all right matchup. And with Jamar Chase out, I think that he's going to get more target share. I think he's going to have more opportunity against this Panthers offense. And he still did do a good week 8 despite Cincinnati playing awful. So he didn't break the threshold, but I think that he has the potential to break it this game. Heading over to this divisional rivalry where we got the Green Bay Packers versus the Detroit Lions. Robert Tonyan. I have him in the start column. I want to start him against any other team, but against the Detroit Lions, it's just too hard not to start him. Listen, it's too good of a matchup. Like I said, Detroit's defense, they're number 28 overall, giving almost 13 points per game to the opposing tight end. And with it being a divisional game, I expect Aaron Rodgers and Robert Tonyan to kind of show up. If it is a high-scoring Detroit Lions offense, then he could be used a lot more because that means a lot more passing. When Detroit has that high-scoring offense, all people tend to do well in both teams for fantasy. Detroit, Brock Wright, tight end is more of a backseat role given that they have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who plays pretty dang well, and DeAndre Swift, who is a threat out of the backfield. Jamal Williams has been getting a lot more looks, so that's something to note, I guess. But Green Bay has a decent defense. They're number 4 overall, giving up 5.5 points per game. And I have seen flashes from Brock Wright, but considering the fact that he's a backup, I'm not going to start him this time around. We got the Colts versus Patriots. I have everyone benching this one. Granted, he's a good tight end, but there's a rough QB situation there with the Colts. He is fringe. New England's defense is number 26 overall, giving up over 15 points per game, which is kind of ridiculous. New England, again, have them both bench. There's just not great target volume going their way. They're an afterthought in this offense, and they are big play dependent. So, given all those things added up together, I just don't feel comfortable starting them, especially because they do split reps. Heading over to New York, where we got the Bills versus the Jets. Dawson Knox, again, a fringe. He's not a solid target. He has low volume. He is touchdown dependent. But because he's touchdown dependent, I mean, let's look at him in the red zone. He is a very good red zone option, and they seem to be going back to him over and over again. So he does still get those touchdowns. And this matchup against the New York Jets defense, it's all right. They give up 12.5 points per game. But I still have him in the bench column because he's so touchdown dependent. For the Jets, Tyler Conklin, I think that this is a fringe. Sorry. I think this is a fringe, and I think it's kind of a risky start. It's either a hit or a miss with him on this week. He had a great week 8, so it's hard to sit him immediately following that game. But hopefully he built his connection with Wilson and can move forward from here. We've seen an increase in targets every single week under Wilson. He started with 1, went up to 2, and then something like 5, and now he's up to 9 or so. So he's doing well. And with Breece Hall out, there is more passing going on over there in New York. Heading to Washington, where we got the Vikings versus the Commanders. TJ Hawkinson, I have him here because Irv Smith is hurt still. So TJ Hawkinson, I think he will get some decent reps, but it's a new playbook. So that's why I have him in the sit column. He is fringe, though. I'm hoping for him to have a decent opening against the Commanders. They paid a price for him, and I think they want to involve him as quickly as possible. He had a good showing with the Lions in the last few games, but I think with the Lions, they were just a little bit too saturated, giving it to other targets. So I think that he has an opportunity to thrive here with the Vikings. As far as the Commanders, listen, they have a struggling offense. They did all right in this last game, but there's not super high scoring, so that's why I got both of these guys in the sit column. Heading now to Jacksonville, where we got the Raiders versus Jaguars. Darren Waller, Foster Moreau. Injury concern still with Waller. We'll see if he returns. If he does return, I think that they're going to split a lot of time. I think they're going to kind of ease him off of that injury and give a lot of reps to Foster and a lot of targets to Foster. But the targets were there week 8. So I'm a little split here. Jacksonville's defense, so they are number 6 overall, only allowing 9 points per game to opposing tight ends. So that could be a little bit troublesome for this Las Vegas team. Jacksonville Jaguars, I've got Evan Ingram in the start column. As I said at the beginning of this video, he's been doing well. He's had some good showings recently. He's getting the targets, and more importantly, he's getting the yards after the targets. He has a great matchup going against the number 30 ranked defense against the tight end, the Las Vegas Raiders, who allow over 16 points per game, which is pretty ridiculous. So, given that, I've got him in the start column. I think he has a great opportunity to excel in this game. We got Seahawks versus Cardinals now. Seahawks, nothing new here. Safest option is just not to pick any of these guys up in the first place. And if you do, I wouldn't play them. I see almost all of them in every single waiver wire, but I'm just not for it. But they do have a decent matchup, I guess, against the Arizona Cardinals, and maybe it could be a high-scoring game, so that's the upside, I guess. But let's go to something that actually matters. Zach Ertz over here. He's 7 for 8 games and breaking our threshold, which is really good. He's averaging 12.3 points per game, and he just seems to be a consistent and good option. He has no crazy high ceiling, but he has an all right floor at 6 points. Nothing spectacular. We would like higher, but 6.1 isn't the worst. And you have a great matchup against this Seattle team who gives up a decent amount of points as well. Now we got the Rams versus the Buccaneers. Tyler Higbee, I've got him in the start column. He had a rough last couple games, but the volume and opportunities there. He just needs to capitalize on it. He's still averaging 9.6 points per game despite coming off of 2 bad weeks. And he has a good matchup against Tampa Bay, who offers almost 16 points per game to opposing tight ends. Tampa Bay, on the other hand, Cade Otton, he had a super inefficient week 8. He's getting a lot of snap counts, but he's just not getting the targets. And when he does get the targets, he's not getting the actual completions, the receptions. He's averaging 5.11 points per game. And he's now going against a tough matchup where the LA Rams, they have a number 2 defense against tight end, giving up shy of 7 points. So with that, I have him in the sit column. Titans versus the Chiefs now. We got Austin Hooper. We got Geoff Swaim, both in the sit column. Malik Willis. This is kind of a different factor here with this Tennessee offense. They're more run-centered, especially when you got people like Derrick Henry. And he only had 10 pass attempts the whole game last week, which is more, I like to compare him to Justin Fields and the Bears in weeks 1 through 3, where the pass attempts are there, they're using him for his running, and it's just not necessarily working out. Kansas City is just kind of an automatic start. He's number 1 in points per game, giving 21 points per game. Number 2 in targets with 60 over the course of the season. Number 1 in receptions with 47 over the season. Number 1 in yards with 553 over the season. And number 1 in touchdowns with 7 over the season. So, really great showing from him. It's hard not to start him. Now we got Ravens versus the Saints. Mark Andrews, he is unlikely to play here, and honestly, I'm not sure I'm putting him in that start column. I think they're going to be kind of conservative with him, so I'm more into sitting him. But Isaiah likely have him in the sit just because if Mark Andrews does come back, I think that they might split some time. He had a great week 8, but he's going to be facing a tougher defense here, so I think that could give him enough issues that New Orleans Saints knows that he just put up a decent week 8, so now they can start planning against him and kind of stop him there because that was their main source of any sort of sustenance with this Ravens team. On Saints, I just have them both in the sit column. I think Taysom Hill is a 1-2 start if you're going to start either of these guys, but he's too risky, and it's all about volume for him, and he either gets it or he doesn't. Now with that, we're going to close out some of the options, though, I want to close with. If you have some guys on buys, it is a huge week for buys with 6 teams out. So some of the options you can look into are Cade Otton on the Buccaneers. He has had some decent games in the past. He has been incorporated in the past. He hasn't done well recently, but he could be an option. A riskier option is Cole Kmet. I think they are moving towards a more pass not heavy, but they're moving more towards the pass, and I think Justin Fields is actually putting up some decent numbers, so he could perform well. TJ Hawkinson I also have there. If he's able to get some easy dumps, then no problem in getting some decent points, especially in PPR, which is what we're grading this off of. And Las Vegas, whoever their starter is Isaiah Likely or oh, sorry, that's Isaiah Likely is another option, but Las Vegas, whoever the starter is going to be, Foster Moreau or Darren Waller. And then, like I said, Isaiah Likely. So those are some options. Now, I want to close with this. It is Movember. I'm starting to get my faint little shadow going under the nose here. So if you want to donate or whatnot, I'm going to put a link in the description of this video. Feel free to jump on down there and donate. It's for a great cause. It's a charity. They donate to charities all about men's health. So feel free to support the cause. Grow a mustache, send in your pictures, and if you want, we can post them, we can preview them, and we can give out awards each and every week. That might be something we start for this month, and we will see how it goes. But for now, I will catch you on the next video with the quarterbacks, and we will catch you later.